another week together. I'm so excited to join in conversation again for Moon Magic and Mindfulness with Grace. We have been discussing the moon and the astrology of the week since 2022. This is season 3, and we are just a fortnight, if you will, just a fortnight away from 2025. I know it's not a fortnight, relax. I just mean, in a little over 2 weeks, we are going to be in 2025 and starting a brand new chapter together. That's right. I don't know if you're new here, but if you are, welcome. My name is Graciela Moore. I am the author of Moon Magic and Mindfulness with Grace 2025 Manifestation Agenda / Journal. This is the 3rd edition. This is the 3rd time I make this book, and I'm just so grateful and so excited for next year's because it is so much more beautiful and more magical, and it has more space for journaling. So I'm very excited. Now, how was your weekend? I could hear the little birdies because we just had a full moon yesterday, and so we're gonna talk about that. Mercury was retrograde for the last few weeks, finally ending yesterday along with that full moon, and so we're gonna talk about that. And we're also going to dive into the astrology of the week. There's 2 transits that I'm very excited about, along with that shift of the sun from Sagittarius to Capricorn on Saturday with the solstice. And so, yeah, I'm excited. So welcome. Grab your coffee or your tea or your water. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever this finds you. I'm so excited that we are here. Let me know in the comments below where you're tuning in from and what brings you here, or what questions do you have about the stuff that I bring up. A lot of it is honestly very just inspired in the spur of the moment. None of this broadcast is scripted other than the information that I have already put in the agenda for us to discuss every week. So next year's work is already done, and that was also part of why I designed this agenda to begin with, combining my own personal practice of looking at the astrology and looking at the moon every day, then assess, to then go about my day. And I did have one of those crisis of faiths, if you want to call it, for over 10 years, where the moon was still of my personal interest. The moon was always there, if you will, but I didn't really dive into the study of astrology. I didn't necessarily commit the way that I used to when I was a teenager and early adult. But honestly, it all changed and shifted in my mindset once I had my child 5 years ago, almost 6 years ago. It woke me up to a lot of my own sensitivity, my own emotional awareness or lack thereof. It opened me up to a brand new interest. I say brand new because the interest in psychology has always been there. I'm a literature major, and part of what I studied within that literature and film major of mine was a focus on human behavior. And my thesis was actually about body language in literature, which was really fun to do in hindsight, and a lot of reading and connecting things that honestly I kind of thought were not even there to begin with. And then once I started looking at how authors describe the physical motions of their characters really aids in that character development, it was just really fascinating, in my opinion, but I digress. Anyway, Mercury must not be retrograde anymore because words are just flowing out. So yeah, I'm just very excited and very grateful. I'm so grateful. So let's take this moment to start this week with gratitude. In 2025's agenda, you have 2 brand new pages for you to journal. anything you want. Now, of course, the whole book is guided, so I guide you through those pages for them to be about gratitude, so that every Sunday, the day of the sun, we look with clarity, with intention at the life that we are currently living. Remember, the moon is all about the emotional landscape. The moon is all about that vibe that sometimes we feel, along with the planets. And the sun is all about the intellect, prefrontal cortex kind of science that takes care of the day to day. And with the emotional landscape that the moon kind of represents, governs, or provides, if you will, whichever you want, however you want to look at it. With that emotional landscape that the moon provides is also the ruckus of the lizard brain and the survival mode, because when we are in survival, unfortunately, if there's trauma in our past, if there's trauma underneath in the subconscious, in the obscure, then that really plays a part in how we show up every day. Unless we have strategies, unless we have coping mechanisms, and unless, of course, we have community or just someone in our life who checks in, who supports, who provides that just community sense for us. And who is that for you? If you have someone like that in your life, then let them know how grateful you are, or just hold that gratitude in your heart for a moment, because it is important to bring to our awareness pretty much all the little things in order to then those little things pile up to create hopefully something beautiful and something that we can just be proud of. And what I mean by that is just life, just a beautiful life that you're proud of. Don't we want that? What does that look like? What does it look like to continue to aspire, to continue to create? How do we begin, right? And so these are some of the questions that brought me to Moon Magic and Mindfulness with Grace as a whole strategy book thing. In this journal, you're invited to strategize the week ahead, focusing on moon days, the moon, and where it is astrologically every day of the week. Every Monday, you'll be invited to decide what is the one thing that you must not forget to do. What is the one thing that you want to focus on creating this week? And it doesn't necessarily have to be something that you have to create. You can also create moments of peace. You can create a beautiful space in your house for you to rest or be creative in. And of course, just to start the week on the right foot, what is one thing that you're grateful for? Every Monday, there's original affirmations that are tied to where the moon is astrologically that day. So there will be a context of if the sun is in Sagittarius, and that's all about optimism and goal getting, for example, just two things. I'm not saying Sagittarius is all about that. And the moon is in Gemini, which is all about community, all about communicating, all about sisterhood or brotherhood, family for sure. Then what can I create as an affirmation that will kind of propel me to the week? So every week you have an original affirmation. So just with that, there's about 52 plus affirmations in the book. And then you have a space to journal openly, whatever you want. I personally use that space to study the astrology of the week and to at least have an awareness of where the planets are, because this book will only tell you where the moon is. We discuss the planets together because that's the fun, right? But then in the book, you're invited to strategize the rest of the week in time blocks, which is a system that my own husband taught me and that we've been using for over a decade in real estate, in our own personal business. We have an online vinyl shop, I have a merch shop, a coaching business, etc. And all of it, homeschooling, we do it all through time blocking. And in this agenda, you get the examples, you get kind of a tutorial, and of course, if you have any questions about what time blocking is or how to do it in the book, go ahead and leave it in the comments. we've been doing this for 3 years, y'all, and I'm so excited to do this. Now, here's the best part for me, like the most exciting part about the book. I've been doing this since I was 22 in my own personal journals, and in 2022, I went ahead and I shared it with you all, and it's been really exciting. So, for every new moon and full moon in the calendar, you will get a space to journal and paint. Under this painting, there's journaling. And what I journaled was basically the answer to these journaling questions that I've already created. I've already come up with them. I've already looked at the astrology of next year in our very trusty astroseek.com. All the moons are here with questions and a space for you to journal and paint. And let's take this moment to say thank you again to Peter Sobey, Wynn Thornley, and Marianne Baker, who provided me with the most heartfelt messages about their thoughts on the 2023 and 2024 manifestation agenda / journal, because they've been following this journey ever since the start. I'm so grateful for all three of you. Thank you for the commitment to show up, to just have this exchange. Thank you for your questions. Thank you for validating a lot of what I say here, a lot of what comes up, a lot of what I tend to translate, if you will. And then you validate it by letting me know how that showed up for you in your life, either the exact same way I described, or how it wasn't the same, but you still maneuvered it, or something I said helped. It's just, I cannot let you know how grateful I am. Like, words cannot express it. And so I hope that having your reviews and your comments on this journey front and center in the very third page of this is to your liking. I can only hope that you like that and that you continue to show up in this journey. Oh my gosh. Okay, so the book is available on Amazon. The link is in the description, in the bios, everywhere. And yeah, you can get it in like 3 days if you have Prime. All right, let's move on to the week ahead. Now, before we begin, let's go ahead and take a look at that full moon in Gemini, because I don't know about you, but it was a doozy for me. My Mercury in my natal chart is in Gemini, which honestly, if you think about it, it doesn't surprise me that I'm an author or that I love doing this. Mercury, Gemini. Okay, so that tracks. Anyway, my Mercury is in Gemini. We had this full moon in Gemini with the sun illuminating all that Gemini represents, all that Gemini stands for. And Mercury retrograde. Mercury rules Gemini, right? So, for me, the weekend was extremely moody. Not only was I quiet, which means like this little machine was not really moving much. Mars is retrograde, so let's put that in the mix. But this was going nonstop and not in a very positive way. We've talked about how Mercury retrograde tends to come up for me specifically with a lot of negative self-talk, and it's very important to pay attention to the stories we tell ourselves, the perceptions that we continue to build and to believe, and to then make up these things about. So, you know, perception is not just about how other people perceive me, but how I perceive things and what I make of that, right? And so for me, this weekend was a bit of a stunt. It was a bit of a pause in a lot of the flow that I feel like I was experiencing a little bit. And then once Mercury hit retrograde in Gemini in the past few weeks, it's just been interesting, right? Like we couldn't get together last week, or something happened. I don't even remember. I remember my child woke up as soon as I started my live, so I had to cancel it, so on and so forth. So how was it for you? I know Margarita, good morning, welcome. thank you for being here. Margarita texted me and said that she was very emotional and that she felt exhausted. So was it like that for you? My sister was very sleepy. She's a Gemini, and she spent most of the weekend just feeling kind of groggy and not I don't think she did much this weekend. And here comes the part about how it's important for us to honor our body and what we kind of feel like we need in the moment, because understanding that punishing ourselves for the need to rest is a very kind of capitalist mindset, or a very kind of modern, definitely hustle. Forgive me if I lack the words, right? Let's remember my first language is Spanish, so sometimes this happens, especially early in the morning. Anyway, if you needed to rest this weekend, I hope you got the rest you needed, because this full moon in Gemini was kind of a doozy. Let's look at the questions from the book, and you let me know how this resonates. If you don't have a journal and a pencil or a pen, then take a moment to go get that, because this is the part where we journal together and it's so exciting. So, question number 1 about this full moon in Gemini that happened yesterday, Sunday, December 15th. Reflecting on this year's journey, which is what Mercury wants to do when it's retrograde, right? It wants to retrospect, it wants to reminisce and remember. Reflecting on this year's journey, what are the friendships or connections that brought the most joy and laughter into your life? This question makes me kind of sad, because now with the possible ban of TikTok, a lot of us are kind of sad that we found our friendships and our besties on the Clock app. And so what's going to happen, right? We have no idea. There's a lot of certainty in the air, but let's focus on what we can control. And I can control looking back on the 2-3 years that I've been very active on the daily on that app, and the friendships that I've gathered along the way. Such beautiful faces, neurodivergent, very powerful women and men who are interested in all of this and who allow me to connect in a very personal way, so that I can compare notes and gather my research for all of this. And so it's not just about coaching, and it's not just about friendship. It's also about observing and allowing me to observe and to kind of poke, right? I love checking in on all of you. My natal moon in Cancer just wants to nurture and check in and be like, are you okay? What can I do for you? So I'm just so grateful. I'm so grateful. Angela, I'm so grateful for M and Cece. You're just all so beautiful, and I'm very grateful to be able to just be a part of your life, even if it's in this tiny little device, shape, or form. So thank you for that. Question number 2, and this is very Gemini, this question. Consider the books, movies, or experiences that sparked your curiosity and stimulated your mind. This Mercury in Gemini is about that mental stimulation. And the reason why I bring up movies and films and books is definitely not just because I was kind of shaped and formed with that in mind. Nobody in my house spoke English. I was a child. I wanted to learn the language, so I found any which book I could in English and pretended like I was reading, like I knew what I was reading. And that hyper focus and that special interest, both neurodivergent words that I'm very aware of right now as I enter my 40s era next year, my hyperfixation and my hyperfocus on the English language is what allowed me to continue to learn it. It's what allowed me to be focused and curious about movies and films and books. And so for me, going back on that is all about personal growth and language development, and not so much personal development, but definitely a creative development. Let's look at the affirmations that we have for this full moon in Gemini. I commit to expanding my horizons and exploring new ways of thinking, confident that each step leads me closer to my higher vision. I courageously set the stage for my future, knowing that the rewards of my bravery, big or small, will unfold gracefully and in its own time. You get a space to journal your questions and to paint. I haven't done mine yet, but I will. Don't worry, I do it on Moon Day. As always, I like to rest on Sundays. And so we're gonna be able to do this later today. Now turn your attention to our trusty Astro Seek. Now we begin the week with the moon in Cancer, which can be very emotional, especially if the weekend we kind of struggle with some of those emotions because Neptune has been involved. And when Neptune is involved, there's a lot of comings and there's a lot of waves, if you will, of those emotions. And it can just be overwhelming. So to drink water and to remember to just rest as needed is extremely important. So the moon in Cancer might kind of bring some of those emotions back, even though the full moon is already behind us. Why? First of all, because it's only Monday. And let's remember that that kind of full moon, new moon energy tends to go 48 hours before, 48 hours after. There's kind of a grace period / portal, what do you want to call it, right? And so there's that, but there's also that moon in Cancer that kind of focuses on the raw. Think of the lobster, the crab, and the turtle, all three animals that have been historically associated with the moon. There's others like the unicorn, but still, all three of these have a hard shell exterior and a raw center, which makes them extremely vulnerable, right, to the elements and to other animals and predators. And so if you think about it, we humans, you and me, we also have this hard shell exterior and a mushy center, a raw center. Wednesday and Thursday, we will have the moon in Leo, so look out for people and their egos being front and center. Everybody likes to be the center of attention. Everybody does like to be appreciated in some way or another. We do really want others to see us, right? We do want to be seen, but it really also begins with us seeing others and with us acknowledging, so on and so forth. So I don't know how that shows up for you in your life. I have no idea where your Leo placements are, but take a look at that in your chart or let me know if you have any questions. But the moon in Leo will be Wednesday and Thursday. And Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, we have a gorgeous moon in Virgo, which can be very productive. But, or I should say, or we have that winter solstice happening on the 21st, where the sun moves into Capricorn. So think capitalist weekend, think Christmas, think earth sign, money, belongings, holidays, right? Now there's a few transits in the astrology of this week that kind of really invite us to spend time together and spend money. We have Venus trine Jupiter, so there's the planet that governs not just money, but how we spend it, what we spend it on, and Jupiter, the planet that wants to have the most fun, the planet that definitely looks at the bank account and thinks there's several zeros attached to it, even though there's not. So don't forget to double check, triple check. Even though Mercury is no longer retrograde, we have to spend responsibly, right? I don't know if you already saw Buy Now on Netflix, but if you haven't, take a look at it. I haven't been able to look at any store the same since I did that. And I'm really focusing this holiday season on the things that we need to buy or that we want to buy that really kind of help us continue to thrive forward. So I'm talking equipment or tools or creative tools that allow us to just create more and live a colorful life. And so those are the things, not necessarily games, toys, and clothes, if you know what I mean. So how are you feeling this holiday season about what you spend and how you spend it? Because that's very Capricorn, right? And so not just to mention the biggest transit of it all that we will continue to speak about forever and ever and ever, because it will be happening for the next 20 years or so, which is Pluto in Aquarius. And Pluto has officially been in Aquarius just a few weeks, and we have already began to see how the collective moves to transform the system. Think about United Healthcare, think about elections, think about the drones, and how we are all connecting in some way to try to answer some of these questions and solve some of these riddles. And so how about that? All in all, I'm counting on a very productive week ahead. Again, I am so grateful for your love and affection. Thank you for supporting my business. Thank you to my clients for trusting me with your life and all of the emotional development that goes on in it. And I will see you all next Monday. Bye.